You're going to be the clerk tonight?
Yep.
Okay.
Do we do the pledge?
No.
Okay.
All right, good evening. I have 7:05. I'll call to order this special meeting of the Columbus Common Council for Friday, August 31st, 2018. Patrick, if you could please take a roll call for us.
Yes. Tylen.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Millar.
Here.
Traxler.
Here.
Henderson absent, excused, and Tome.
Here. Thank you. This meeting has been noticed appropriately according to state statutes and local ordinances. Next item then is to approve the agenda. We only have one item on the agenda for the evening. It's a special meeting. Unless there's any questions, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion in 2 seconds to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Then we move on to new business 1, which is discuss, consider, and take possible action related to the City of Columbus's participation in the Eastern Columbia County Joint Municipal Court. This special meeting is being held today due to the timeline, the date, to discuss the future of our participation in the Eastern Columbia County Joint Municipal Court. There was a court committee meeting on Wednesday, the 29th, 2 days ago, where there was an MOU presented by the city that we had discussed at our last meeting. That was presented to the court committee, and it was not accepted by the court committee. So we are here to discuss this issue further. Andy, you were at that meeting, if you wanted to frame that.
Yeah, so, the agenda item comes up, we discuss the MOU. There really wasn't any discussion regarding the MOU at all. No one questioned any of the items on it. Probably because this is the exact thing that they were asking for. We've gone back several times to them saying, we say, hey, here's what we're offering. They come back with something else, add it a little bit more. We go back and say yes. They come back again and need a little more, and we did it. We met all their requests in good faith. We felt like we were ready to move forward when, move the court to Columbus. After some discussion, again, not based on the MOU at all. It was more about personal feelings of the court clerk. Basically, she felt that she was comfortable in Randolph. Felt that there was some, bad blood with when the court was here several years ago. I explained to her that, it's not like that anymore. We have new leadership. This was, quite a while ago that they were here, or she was here. We've offered them a great space, plenty of room. We offered them this, wonderful chambers. But in the end, the vote did fail 7-5. I was really uncomfortable with this meeting. The thing that stood out to me is there are, every community has a representative and an alternate, and it's inconsistent who shows up to the meetings, whether it's the regular person or the alternate. I was the alternate at this meeting, I understand that there could be differing opinions, but one of the other communities sent a different representative, and they voted against it, who had previously voted for it. I don't remember if was there a couple of people that changed their vote from when they approved the last one? Yeah, so
Yes.
there were a couple. So in the end, I think we acted in good faith. We did our best to meet all of their needs, and they have chosen not to move the court to Columbus and stay in Randolph. And again, solely, in my opinion, based on the clerk's feelings of, what she would want to do. I don't know if I'm pretty sure I don't know if anybody knows this, but, you know, the clerk is appointed by a judge. So any time, that clerk could be a different person after any election. So I didn't think it was prudent of the court committee to base that decision on that. You know, again, that was my opinion from what I read in the room. And I think we need to take a serious look at what we're doing going forward. As Mayor Tome indicated, there is a deadline, which is basically tonight at 11:59 to make a decision if we want to withdraw from the court this year or stay. So that's my quick rundown. Take any questions you have. Patrick was there as well. Did a really good job defending our position. He really, you know, he's done a really good job trying to meet the needs that the court is asking for. I mean, I would say that he bent over backwards to make these things happen. You know, him and the mayor and the city. I think we did what we should have, and I think we needed to get a real hard look and decide if we want to make this change now.
All right, thanks, Andy. Kasha, do you have a question?
So if we withdraw from the court, do the other communities that voted for it to come to Columbus also get to utilize the court here?
No.
No, it's just
Eh,
us?
Well, unless other communities take action today to do the same thing we're doing, every community adopts the same ordinance to become part of that joint court.
Okay,
So my understanding is that if we were to break away from the municipal court, we are essentially creating our own municipal court independently. I don't believe there's anybody else out there that would be able to join us that first year at this
Correct.
point.
Right, every community is bound to the agreement in the Eastern Columbia County Joint Municipal Court, and the agreement allows members to withdraw no later than August 31st of the year, and then that signals their departure from the court January 1st of the following year. So if any other partners or communities wanted to join us, they would have to act today.
okay.
So,
So if we decide we're kind of on our own for a year after this?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, how much, and maybe this is something that's already answered here that I just am not getting. How much of our community supports this current court?
Funding?
Like, how much of our, like, revenues does our community produce? Does it produce the majority of it?
More than double the amount of any other community.
Okay, so then if we withdraw, we have funds there to support ourselves, basically, is what I'm wondering.
Well, yes, maybe not initially. There will be investment up front. I mean, there is software. You will have to wait, you know, you're gonna have to wait for the income to come in from tickets and, you know, forfeiture starting January 1st. So there is money there to come to Columbus to support it. But yeah, it would probably be a year or two. I can't say that. At some point, I believe we would be operating in the positive and, you know, well into the positive.
Okay.
If I could step in.
Yep, Patrick, please.
Throughout this process and anticipating this, I took a look at, you know, the breakdown of the contributions of the communities involved in the court and how we, like our ratio, our percentage of the contribution. And over the last 5 years, it's been in a range of, say, 27 to 35% of the total amount of citations, revenues, whatnot, as the piece of the pie, so to speak. When you're talking about a court, a joint court that is comprised of 13 member communities, that's pretty significant.
I do think that the kind of draft budgets that Patrick laid here too, with the difference between a full-time or half-time clerk, kind of lays out some of that information. I believe Dennis Acting Chief of Police Dennis Weiner had given us some preliminary information when we were discussing this a couple months ago as well about the cost of the software to get up and running, et cetera. So I think these are fairly conservative numbers. They're pretty much all in the high end, worst case scenario. But again, I believe we receive that payout of the residual that's left from the joint court annually as well. So that would still be coming. And I don't know when that comes in actually, but.
And then we end up with our own judge and our own clerk independent of them now, is that correct?
If the
If
city
we
chooses to break
choose
it and
to.
do their own court, correct?
Okay, so we wouldn't have to worry about the clerk's feelings being hurt.
I just want to respond to Mike, your comment about the residual. So they do have a healthy balance of approximately $72,000 right now. Their normal goal is to pay out anything over $30,000. They usually wait 2 years, a year or two, 3 sometimes. But it isn't automatic. This would be, the court committee would have to have a meeting, and they would have to discuss it, and they would have to approve those expenditures, or, the dispersals. So I don't know how us leaving would affect it. I truly believe that we are entitled to our share of that money, even if we do leave January 1st. And I think that would be something that our city attorney and city administrator would need to ensure that we get a portion of, as that would also help contribute to starting up this court if we do go down that road.
All right. Trina, sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering if we have access to several years of fines and penalties, otherwise revenues, just to make sure this looks pretty viable?
Yeah.
I think that's goes back to 2015. That the first page it's on right now is 2017. I think there's 2 pages below that. And that's all the communities there. So definitely take some time and pass it around and look at it.
I think to kind of frame this as well again is the having this decision by the court committee on Wednesday and having to notice a meeting. This is the final hour. So I went back and forth a little bit the last day. I spoke with Attorney Johnson today and Patrick, trying to weigh out the options and find out what needs to be done in either scenario. But I believe since the city of Columbus found that the court committee was ready to relocate to Randolph, that's when we began our efforts to try to draw them to bring the court back to the city of Columbus. We didn't want to have that additional, that 20 miles between here and Randolph for court dates. I think there's other issues that go along with that as well, as far as the police officers and our city attorney having to travel to Randolph, which also creates other issues of having police officers that are out of the city in court, the expense of traveling back and forth, et cetera. So that's why we've put this much effort into kind of going back and forth with the court committee several times in trying to grant them their wishes as far as a space here. The MOU that we did extend to them had a 10-year guarantee that the city would not charge the court for rent or the space. But the court committee has decided not to do that, so we know that the court will be located in Randolph for all of 2019. So I guess with that, that's why we're having the meeting, to kind of weigh out which direction we would choose to go in. Some information that I did get today in looking at some documents that Patrick provided from the Supreme Court as far as forming a new municipal court, regardless of whether we decided to go down the path of creating our own municipal court this year or the following year, either option would include having to appoint a judge for the interim. The judge would have to be appointed to serve from January 1st through May 1st. That's the way the state statute reads, is that the judge starts his term on May 1st. We would not be able to have a special election next year and get everything organized and have the court ready to function on January 1, 2020. So we'd be dealing with the exact same timeline next year or this year. So I think it's if it's a path that the city wants to go down, I think we need to kind of weigh out, do we wait and do this, or do we take the plunge and start our own court now? So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces that we need to acknowledge. With that, go ahead, Clark.
The appointment of the judge, would that be by the governing body or?
It would be the city council that would have to appoint the judge, from my understanding, the governing body of the municipality. We'd have to adopt an ordinance to create the court. The court would have to be certified through, I can't remember which body that is, state
courts.
State courts.
Yep.
Would have to certify that court, so there is a timeline where everything has to be done to create that court to function on January 1. A clerk would have to be hired, we would have to have an office set up, and the judge would serve through May 1st. There would be a special election in either February or April, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we'd have the option. We clearly would want to coincide with those two already scheduled elections.
Yep.
Yep.
Then the seat would be then occupied May 1st.
Correct. As Attorney Johnson clarified to me, is that's why you have to appoint the judge, because statute says that the term starts on May 1. So that judge would serve a 4-year term after elected then. If the municipal court was a Columbus Municipal Court for the first year, it could take on partners and it could become a joint municipal court after that, if there were other people that wanted to come and join us. But however, that judge would still serve a 4-year term, from my understanding. So, Andy?
Yeah, so on that note about other communities that could potentially join us, I won't name the communities, but there is definitely a good feeling that there would be communities willing to join us, but obviously it would have to be in 2019, or at 2020,
Yep.
at the end of 2019, yeah, till January 1, 2020. So I'm confident that that would happen. There were communities that have said that to me. There are communities that said that they wouldn't join initially. I don't know what that meant, but there are certainly there's certainly some options to help build this court. I wanted to also note that in the draft budget here, Patrick has laid out a couple of scenarios: one for a full-time clerk, one for a half-time clerk. I at the beginning, obviously, we would want to do a half-time clerk if it's only one community, but as the court may grow over time, at some point, we would need to consider building a budget that would also give the opportunity for a full-time clerk. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that too.
Thank you. Patrick, it's just for clarification too, under judge's salary, you don't have benefits, since the judge is an elected official, they're not really an employee, it's just like a
It's-
stipend.
Yeah, similar to how we treat you all.
Okay, so the
Yep.
clerk would be the only one that would be considered an employee and
Correct.
would get benefits.
Yep.
And would they be considered a City of Columbus employee or an employee of the court?
We would segregate and have the court, it's a separate fund.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be generated by the tax levy, it would be generated by the actions of the court, generated through citations.
Okay. Andy?
I also wanted to note that what the clerk of the current court had mentioned is that when we were talking about, we're going through the budget and her benefits are through the state courts. So I don't know if it's because the court contributes to this fund for that. I don't know how that works. So I don't know if that benefit analysis is accurate or not. I trust if you checked it out, I trust you on that. But
What I can say is I took a salary that compares to what other clerks make, similar to what Karen makes, and put in a number, and then benefits are calculated, based off of that. So
So,
these are very rough numbers. I will
Yeah.
tell you that. And so I just thought it would be helpful to kind of see a sense of what the implications would be.
yeah, I think if I remember right from the meeting, the current clerk there makes approximately $21 to $22 an hour. They just also approved the hiring of a part-time clerk and at 15 an hour. So there could be, those could be 2 points. And I think the judge makes around 15 or 16,000 a year.
Right.
So, as you can see from the numbers, full-time, half-time, there's, it's gonna fluctuate, but yeah, the salaries obviously would be set by us, and we would have that opportunity to, build that budget through that way.
There are just a few other like minor costs too associated with this, with the education, continuing education for the judge. I think they got 4 judicial education credits each year. That's like, what, $625? And the other question I had was, if we're doing a joint court, do the communities that want to participate in it have to be in the same county?
That I don't know. I would assume so, but I don't have.
Well,
There's no language in here that says that.
I think the Village of Dane just withdrew because of a different arrangement, and what their reasoning was, they were joining a court from Dane County,
Okay.
a community court. So they withdrew from the Eastern Columbia County Court to go to a Dane County Court. So I think that may help us with that answer, that
Yeah.
it's not, we're not restricted by county.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
Is the
think,
community in both counties, though? Is the community of Dane in both counties? Maybe that's why they had that opportunity.
That's a good question.
This might be a good chance we could call, if Paul might know, we could call Paul and ask him.
He's kind of in that area, so he might be able to tell
Yeah.
us. So I'll dial him up.
Is that okay, everybody?
yeah,
Sure.
Okay.
I think I read somewhere too that it could be multiple counties involved, and they don't even have to be contiguous. Yeah.
My thought was, I was thinking that too. I was pretty sure that, you could pick you could pick communities from your surrounding area. If we're talking like Elba and,
Yep.
I don't know if anybody writes tickets in Elba, but, or Town of Columbus, I think we have an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Turn the mic on. Oh, whatever you're. I was gonna get on. Yeah, sure. I forgot my question.
If we're in different communities, can we go?
Good evening.
Hi, Paul. Paul, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. What can I do?
Who wants?
Go ahead.
Mike, go ahead.
Paul, I had a question about the joint municipal court setup, and my question was, can communities participate in the court from different counties?
From different counties?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was all I had.
All right.
Yeah, the current makeup of the Columbia County Court has one Dane County community, that's the Village of Dane, but they're leaving at the end of the year.
Okay, Paul, I have another question for you.
Okay.
It's my understanding that the court's clerk is appointed by the judge, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so in a situation where we're looking at appointing a judge to serve January 1 through May 1, that would be the judge that would be appointing the clerk?
Okay, I didn't hear that question.
We would be appointing a judge initially if we decided to go down the road of starting our own municipal court. So would the appointed judge be appointing the clerk?
Initially, I think that answer is technically yes, but the way that I think that it's going to work the best is that you're going to appoint the judge, and at least for the initial few months until the election takes place, you're going to be trying to figure out who that clerk is going to be. And then once the election takes place and you have an elected judge, then that judge is going to have the ability to appoint his own clerk, but he can certainly look at somebody that you might already have put into that position. I mean, he has the final call, but you might have somebody available already.
Okay. I guess that's my concern, is that if we have a short timeline and we need to find a clerk, do we put out the call as a city to say we're creating a municipal court, we need a clerk, and we get that done before someone is appointed for that 5 months?
I would think in the very short term you would take one of your existing city staff or somebody from the police department, as long as you follow a few rules, and you would make that person the court clerk and then see what happens after the election takes place.
Okay, thank you. Andy?
Hi, Paul. It's Andy. I have a question for you as well. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep.
Okay. So my question is, the current court has a positive balance, per se, in the checking account that they generally will distribute that money to the communities after they built up a healthy balance. There was discussion about doing that at this last meeting, but it wasn't an agenda item, so you couldn't take any action. My question is, if we leave the court January 1st, are we then leaving the opportunity to get that disbursement?
Okay, I think I heard that. If you leave the court, you're not going to get any of your money back. Is that the question you were asking?
Well, are we going to get the extra money that they distribute every other year, essentially?
That you should still get your share, but I'm going to bet that's going to be an argument.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Paul.
All right. Do we want to keep Paul on the line? Do we have more questions for Paul, or are we done? All right, Paul, those are the only questions we had for you, so you can start your weekend now.
I'll be at the same place for the foreseeable future. If you got any more questions, just give me a call.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Enjoy the weekend, guys.
You too.
All right, so we have answers from Attorney Johnson. I guess we're going to have to decide what we'd like to do tonight. I have had thoughts the last couple of days, I guess, whether we stick with the court and maybe try to negotiate with them further. I think in the discussions we've had in the last couple months in trying to urge the court to come here, it's obviously the intent to bring the court back to Columbus, since we're the largest contributor to the traffic in the court and also the revenue that it creates. I would like to have the court back here, but we will not be able to do that in 2019. We will be using the court in Randolph. I have thought about exploring the idea of convincing the committee to have a special court date in Columbus. That's something we haven't really talked about. Currently, they do have several court dates in different locations in the county. I believe Poinette is another location. And I hate to assume things, but there could be additional expenses brought on the court for that. I don't know if those would be expenses they would want the city of Columbus to bear to have a day in court here. However, that is assuming they'd want to negotiate with us. If they don't, then we will be going to Randolph for court for the next year. So that's why we're having the meeting tonight, to either decide to stay or to consider the creation of our own court. So, Andy?
Yeah, Patrick, can you just kind of give everyone here that may not have been here an idea of how long we've been working on, working with the court, and they approached us first, right?
Yep.
And
I
then-
can
Go ahead.
provide a history.
Could you?
Yep. So I believe this started in November of last year. The judge and the clerk started with the judge really approached me to see if the city would be interested in housing the court, because the court felt that the location in Fall River was not suitable. It was too small, too much, I guess, interaction with their general business of government there. So I initially said, yeah, we'd open to talking about it. Initially, we had showed them the community building, thought that could serve. Initially, got a positive feel from it. I had some email back and forth with the judge. I really did have a sense that they were pondering it and that we had a little bit of time to go back and forth. The court set a date in December when we weren't able to get anyone there. I had concerns about the clarity in the fact that the meeting was that they were actually going to make a decision, but at that meeting they did vote to move the court to Randolph for 2018. So it was a surprise that happened right then and there. So that's when I brought the issue back to the council to talk about it, knowing that there was interest by the council to move the court to Columbus. We had talked, and in some conversations with the judge, felt that the community building may not have been good in terms of its segregation from the general flow of people when you're dealing with people that need to pay citations, and in dealing with money, it's separated. So that made some sense, and we have this facility too, so we talked about using the chambers as a court location, and then we had the emergency management room for a clerk's office. And initially I had proposed that because emergency management director uses it 5 hours a week, could be a shared space. That seemed, I had the sense that that was going to be fine. So then we met the court committee met in April, I believe, upon my request on behalf of the council to reopen the discussion. At that meeting, there was a lot of members that were concerned about, because they had just moved the court, do we want to shake it up? And it does create some disruption, logistical issues. But at that time, some new questions came that I wasn't anticipating. I didn't know that they were issues about some extra costs that they were looking for the city to fund in terms of fixing up the space, confirming things. So at that point, they said, we won't close the door on moving to Columbus. I said with Alderman Hendrickson, we'd need to come back to the council. So we did that, talked to the council again, and we firmed up all the issues that we were aware of, putting the court space in here, exclusively having the emergency management office for the clerk. I'm comfortable with putting the emergency management director in another space for the time that she's here. So then brought that back to the chairman of the committee for another consideration. They met in July, end of July. So Alderman Hendrickson and I were there, put it on the table, and another issue emerged, which was concerns about the history of the court in Columbus. And the last time court was here, there was I think it sounded like there was a rather abrupt period to where the city all of a sudden wanted to charge a fee for the use of space. At that time, it was clear to me that the direction of the council, the feeling of the council was that we would not charge it. But among the discussion, they thought, well, maybe we can have something written in agreement. That's when I came back to the council to say the court committee is looking for a guarantee, so to speak, that there wouldn't be any increase in the cost of the space rental, so to speak. We wanted to shore up and confirm the fact that we would renovate the space to the needs of the clerk. And also a new issue that emerged was the cost of moving the court, which was estimated to be $900 to $1,000. Returned to the council, there was support for doing that. You all did approve that in August 6th, I believe. Mm-hmm. I made shared the information with the chair of the committee. They set the meeting for Wednesday, to when I explained that we marked all the boxes, so to speak. And then as Alderman Traxler described, that other issue came in with work environment, and ultimately they voted to reject our proposal.
At any time during all of your visits and conversations with the court, did that issue come up at all, the uncomfortableness of working in this environment here?
No.
So, I mean, it sounds like from all of your interactions with them, they were all pretty positive. So this is kind of a surprise.
That's how I would describe it. In fact, prior to the July meeting, the clerk and the judge came again to look at the space, kind of was looking around and looking at possibilities to where things could be arranged, potential paint, that kind of conversation. So that gave me a sense that they were supportive of what we were going to propose, and were going to be satisfied if the court committee decided to move it to Columbus. So,
and so for 10 months we've been working on this, and we've gone back and forth. We've been amenable to all of their requests, and I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel with Randolph being the court. Again, during the meeting itself, when I was there, they did not discuss the MOU, go over it. I will say that the representative from Rio did show support for the court moving to Columbus, based solely on all of the positive things in the MOU that they were asking for. And then a representative from another community, I believe it was Town of Lodi, said, has anybody asked how Karen felt? Which to me is an irrelevant point. It's, that's your personal feelings shouldn't be considered in the business of a court. And that's when, as you can read in the memo that Patrick provided us, that she got very emotional and felt like she had a family, and she finally found a family in Randolph and wasn't really digging to move to Columbus, which, as you just heard, which kind of goes against everything and all the feelings and vibes that Patrick had gotten. So I'd be in favor of, as of tonight, making the court, leaving the court and starting our own. And I think we have the means to do it. I don't feel that money is going to be an issue to start up the court. Obviously, it's not ideal to do that, but you have startup costs in any endeavor. So I think in the long run, it's in the best interest of Columbus to move the court here, or I'm sorry, create our own court here. Thanks.
Can I ask one more question? Do we,
Can you wait your turn?
sorry.
Sorry. Jason?
I agree with Andy. I mean, we've done everything they wanted, and they just keep moving the goalposts on us and say, okay, well, we want this. We give them that, and they say, oh, we want this. Who's to say next year they aren't going to ask for a bunch more stuff and be back, and we're going to be in the same place, and they're going to keep it in Randolph. And I also agree, she's doing what's best for her, not what's best for the court. And your action should be what's best for the court. Same way as up here, it should be what's best for the city. When you work for a government body, it's what's best for that body, not what's best for you as an individual. So I think Columbus would be the best move, so I'd be in favor of leaving the Eastern Columbia County Court.
Trina?
Well, I'm guessing that the court would be unlikely to change their minds in the next year if we waited around. I'm just wondering where the finances come on the upfront cost before any of the revenues start coming in. I just don't know how that works.
I'm not sure either. I mean, I've talked to Patrick briefly today. Obviously, budget season's here. But understanding how we get the revenue back from the courts and when, I think, is important to kind of have some seed money there. I think that of some of the numbers are fairly conservative as far as the salary of a clerk, how we start that off initially, whether it's an existing employee and they're taking on the duties. The salary of the judge is also, it's really up to the body to determine that. The salary of the current judge, he's obviously serving 12 communities. This would be serving one to start off. So there's a lot of things to look at there on the financial end as well. I think there's risk with everything, but I also feel like this could be a benefit. It could actually be a source of revenue that we have a little bit more control over locally, and maybe we can have some partners come in after that first year. But I have the same concerns. I don't really know exactly what the costs are and how much we need to come up with, but having the conversation during budget season right now is, I guess, the right time to have the conversation. Did you have a follow-up?
Oh, no, just, I'm concerned it could easily be, perhaps around, 40, 50,000 just up front that I believe will come back plus extra, just wanting to make sure that we'll be able to withstand the cost right away.
Sure. I don't know the status of like the undesignated fund, but sometimes there are things that have to come in and then go back out. You know, it's a little buoyant. We're usually upwards of $800,000 to $850,000. So I mean, it may not be something that's firmly budgeted for, but we will have to create a budget for the court as we move forward. If we go in that direction, we will have to have a budget for a court. So
Yeah. And depending on the source of the initial budget, the court will need to repay whatever is put up front too.
yeah,
Because we don't have any revenue to start with.
correct. Kasha?
I'm wondering, in the numbers that you gave us, I'm assuming one of the biggest things we have to gain out of this would be obviously our officers' time back and the officers' expenses to go there. Do you have an idea of about how much that is that we're saving? I mean, because I think in the bigger picture, that's probably something that is a bigger part of what's driving this, in my understanding, is that we need them here doing their job here rather than sitting in a court for hours, costing us money just sitting there, so.
I
Do
don't know that I can confidently say or answer that question. But I think another point is just the fact of having an officer outside of the community when, I'll say it, we've had struggles with turnover and having full staff. And when we're in that situation and an officer needs to be at court, then it takes away from what we have in the community. But at this point, I can't quantify exactly what we're looking at.
I've thought about that as well, and I think that there's a direct financial it's a trip back and forth to Randolph, and an officer that's being paid a wage for staying at the court. I'm not sure how long they have to be there for individually, but it's just having them outside of the boundaries of the city. If something were to happen and there was a significant emergency and we had court here, if they had the choice, they could leave and go to the scene. But otherwise, if they're outside of the city limits in Randolph with a 4-hour commitment of being in a courtroom, there has to be someone else on duty that comes in. Otherwise, we don't have anyone on patrol. So I think that's the added benefit there as well. And also having Attorney Johnson traveling up to Randolph instead of coming to Columbus. I mean, he's still coming from Lodi, I get that, but
Yeah.
there's travel time that goes with all that stuff. But I think keeping the police officers in the city limits is a great benefit to the city.
It may be stretching things a bit, but if Paul, Attorney Johnson's coming here for court, I like to utilize him when he's around, so
Yeah.
if he's here for something else, I'll grab him for another issue, so there could be some savings opportunities there too.
Correct. Actually, when I was signing some documents in City Hall last week, there was an individual that came into the front desk to Pat Gable with a municipal fine that wanted to pay it and was unaware that they could not pay that fine here. And apparently that is common because we had the court here once, that people are under the impression they can pay a municipal fine here in the city. Another component to this, as we watch the move to Randolph, is the concern of having a small municipal violation, and if someone has a transportation issue or needs to get off of work, they can't just come to a court date here in Columbus. They have to get to Randolph and back. And if they miss that court date, then they become, part of the criminal justice system if they don't make their court date, and it turns into a big situation. I think having the court here in Columbus to serve the citizens of Columbus is a benefit to the people that live here as well. So, Andy?
I just want to throw a couple more numbers out there to maybe help with some of your comfort levels as far as financials. Worst case scenario, I feel what Patrick has provided us is, pretty conservative, and worst case scenario upfront first year, $142,100. Sure, that's with buying the software and everything. 2017, the revenues supported by the city of Columbus is $133,962. And the $142,000 I was just referring to is with a full-time clerk. So part-time clerk, initial upfront $109,000. So I think that however this is funded, it would be able to be made whole if these trends continue. I mean, it was $133,000 that year. The year before, just was a little less, and we're trending up, not down. So just throw that out there at you guys too. I think it's viable.
Well, there's revenue created immediately once the court is established. So, I mean, there's revenue coming in through the citations and payments to the court. So we may have to fund things like the software. Initially, there is revenue that will begin to be generated with the court. So, any other questions, concerns? All right.
Just judging from the numbers that I saw that were passed around, I too am in support of having it here. I can't understand why it wasn't taken seriously to move here, since we're generating the most traffic in that court. Furthermore, if in any negotiation, there's always leverage, and you have to be able to walk away from the table, and I think we have to do that. I think it's the right time, if nothing else, to make them understand what's going to be happening.
Andy?
Just one more comment. At that meeting on Wednesday night, some of the discussion that came up was, is Columbus going to leave the court? and the comments, and that was because one of the other representatives just threw out all the positive things about going to Columbus, and the mumbles that started happening when that comment was brought up was they're being childish, they're being bullies, and just that kind of attitude. So I think that it's a toxic environment there, and I think that we have the opportunity to start our own environment that can be productive for Columbus.
I certainly don't want to create the facade that, if Columbus doesn't get what it wants, we just go, we'll pull the plug on the whole deal. But I think we've done our due diligence. We've got 10 months of negotiating in good faith, back and forth, as Patrick has laid out the timeline. We've conceded to every wish they've had to vacate the emergency management office, to pay for move-in expenses, to do everything we possibly can to convince them that we'd like to have the court back here in Columbus. There may be some old residual political stuff that's stuck with a few people in the court, which is unfortunate that would be driving decisions. It's obviously not the decision of the clerk, it's the court committee itself. I was contacted last year by another community member, court committee member, who had concerns about the court as well. I think there are things that need to be cleaned up in the court committee to have a better functioning court. I think this gives us an opportunity to create a court specifically for Columbus and see if we can draw some partners here after that initial year. I mean, I'm in support of bringing it back here. I think there's risks that go along with everything, but I don't think the risks outweigh the benefits that come along with it. I think we've got 10 months of communication, and unfortunately having to have a special meeting on a Friday night on the last final day shows the position we're in. Having the court committee make their decision on a Wednesday, this is the earliest we could have the meeting. So I think we've tried our best, and we're here tonight. I'm on vacation this week. Vacation's over. Clerk?
I don't know how it could be viewed as bullying anyway. I mean, the city did come to the table in good faith and actually went the extra mile to accommodate every request they made. So understanding that it's not a good deal for Columbus is not being a bully. So.
Correct. And to be clear, I asked Attorney Johnson today as well, if we make the decision tonight to break away from the court and go on our own, it doesn't mean negotiations can't continue to happen. If the court wants to come back to Columbus and say, hey, we'd hate to lose you, we'd like to negotiate, that can still happen. But we're at the whim of the court committee. If we decided, oh no, we can't do this, we need back in, it's up to the court committee to decide on that. But they may want to come back and negotiate after this, I'm not sure, and I'm open to that. Sure. Kasia?
In regards to the judge and the clerk, is our decision going forward completely independent of who these people are? They can be like two other independent people. They don't have to be in connection with the other court at all. Is that correct?
Correct.
Like it wouldn't be
Correct.
this judge
There's-
and this
there's a
clerk coming
residency
here
re-
too?
resident requirement.
Okay.
So the court, the judge would have to be a resident of the city of Columbus because it would be a court that only serves the city of, and the current judge in that joint court is not a resident of the city of Columbus. Yep, so there will have to be a judge appointed, there will have to be a clerk. The clerk does not have to meet residency requirements, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, the current court clerk is not a part of a participating municipality, her hometown.
Okay.
So,
All right. There is there are a lot of resources, and there is a timeline that will be laid out if the decision is made to break away, that we will have work to do. There's no question. We'll be incorporating that into the budget conversations. We will have to adopt an ordinance to create the court. The court will have to be certified. It's going to add a little bit of work to us, but we'll have to take those steps, and if that's the path we choose. Any further conversation? No. Andy?
I was going to make a motion.
Sure.
I would like to make a motion to terminate our contract with the Eastern Columbia County Joint Municipal Court, effective 12/31/2018. And, oh wait, I'm sorry, and create our own municipal court in Columbus.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to disband from the Eastern Columbia County Joint Municipal Court and to begin the process of creating our own municipal court in the city of Columbus. Any discussion on that? All right. Could we please take a roll call?
Yes. Traxler.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Tylen.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Millar.
Aye.
5-0.
All right, thank you. Unless there's anything else, thanks for coming on a Friday night for a special meeting. Enjoy your holiday weekend. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn and go Badgers.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you.